All right, Boker Tov, everybody. We learned today. Today is Tanit Esther, which let's pretend Tanit Esther. We will actually talk about that because it actually has something to do with one of the Mishnah we're going to learn indirectly. We're going to do hopefully two Mishnah today, the last two of the first chapter. Number 17 and number 18, Yud Zayin and Yud Chet, which we'll come to in a second. Yud Zayin, the topic is speech and our use of speech and being quiet or speaking up. And the last chapter Mishnah basically has to do with the idea of upon what things the world exists, which sounds like we discussed already in the second Mishnah. So we'll come to that. As an introduction to this Mishnah, two things. Number one, I went to a levaya it was just over a year ago, because it's just the yard site, of a man who I knew my whole life. His name was, some of you may have heard his name, Shale Bellows. Okay, so Shale in Chicago, magnificent human being. So I was also taught a couple of his kids when they were growing up, and his son Moshe spoke at the levaya. And I actually messaged him about 2 weeks ago just to tell him I'm going to say this in public in his father's name. He said that his father taught them, the family, many, many things, as most parents hopefully do teach their kids during their lives, not just halacha, but ethical ideas and life lessons. He said the following, and it stuck with me since the day I heard it from him. His father said, "Don't ever miss an opportunity to be silent." And I thought, what a wonderful twist on an idea that, people sometimes think they always have to say something, they have to answer, sometimes the best thing to do is to keep quiet. And that's actually the topic of this Mishnah. In addition to that, another introduction, when the Torah tells us in the beginning of the Torah about the creation of Adam Harishon, Adam, it says as follows: "Vayipach be'apav nishmat chayim," and God breathed the breath of life into his nostrils. Vayi Adam lenefesh chaya, and he became a living being. So first of all, just parenthetically, the Torah Tamima commentary on the Chumash in Parshat Vayechi, it says that it's because of this pasuk that we say "Li for you, to bless you, gesundheit, avot sante," whatever we say, because it says that when Adam had the life breathed into him, came to his nostrils. So a person would sneeze, what happened historically before Yaakov Avinu, people didn't get sick. They sneezed and they died. That's what happened. That's what the last thing they did. Man, bless you, bye. So people got used to saying that because it was like, to ward off, so to speak, the evil spirits, like you shouldn't die, God forbid. In any case, so why am I mentioning the pasuk? Because the Onkelos, which gets quoted, he gets quoted a lot on this particular pasuk, because he says, "V'havat be'adam l'ruach me'malala." What does it mean he became a living being? He became a speaking being. Everything else in creation that Hashem made until that moment could not speak. Could make sounds. Sometimes it sounds like the animal sounds, sometimes the trees and the wind, but there were sounds. There were and there was communication. Obviously, animals can communicate, but there was no concept yet of speech. So when Hashem creates man and breathes into him the breath of life, that Onkelos translate life in this case as speech. So we have to understand another thing. It says in, I think it's Mishne, "Chayim v'hamavet biyad halashon," that life and death are in the hands of the tongue. And we know that because we know we can hurt a person terribly. You can cheer a person up. And the way we speak, the way not just communicate, but the way we talk, what we say, the wrong thing at the wrong time or the right thing at the right time, it can be devastating and it can be fabulous. And that's kind of what the basis of this Mishnah is. Take a look at. And we're going to come back to Tanit Esther, and I brought my little handy mini art scroll Megillah. I don't know if you know that when art scroll was first started, it was 1975 approximately, and the very first thing they did was Megillah, and they made it like it was called art scroll. It was make a scroll out of it. It was fancy, and the second thing they did was the book of Ruth. I only know that because I was up at Camp Moshe. It's a short story. I was up at Camp Moshe as a senior in high school. Camp Moshe in Wild Rose, Wisconsin, where my dad actually was the director for many years. And they had overnight, they had shiurim, and the teacher was using this book, brand new book, Megillat Rut, and it was like fabulous. And we were all looking at it like it was the second thing they put out from Art Scroll, and they became the dynasty from then. In any case, we'll come back to it in a few minutes. Let's take a look at the Mishnah Yud Zayin, number 17. Shimon ben No, Shimon, the son of Rabban Gamliel, of Rabban Gamliel, who was the last parak, last Mishnah, said as Omer, he says, Kol yamai gadalti ben hachachamim. For all my life, I grew up and was raised and lived among chachamim, wise people. Best thing I found for my body, the best thing is silence. Obviously, this requires a little bit of understanding what exactly he's saying. And the learning about something is not the main thing, but the actual doing. Doing is the main thing. And whoever talks too much, whoever speaks too much, and obviously we have to understand what that means, can bring about sin. Okay, so all these things have to do with the topic of speech, either holding back speech, not speaking too much, or various issues having to do with speech. So that's the general topic of this particular Mishnah. So let's try to we're in the Mishnah 17, the first parak. Let's try to understand what it is that Reb Shimon is telling us here. First of all, why is he Rabban Shimon? Why is he just Shimon? Why is he Rabban Shimon? He becomes Rabban, not the same Rabban Shimon Gamliel that we know, but that'll be his grandson actually. But he had a title. He was also known as Rabban Shimon, who was the son of the original Gamliel. So it's just evidently this Mishnah, when he became famous for saying this Mishnah, was already before he was at the point of having the title. The proof being the fact that he said, I grew up among the Chachamim. So it means he was still in this earlier stages of his career, so to speak, when he became known for saying this type of thing. So what is it he's telling us? First of all, it has to be, we're learning the concept here of what's called anava, or the concept of humility, which we talked about at length, obviously, when we were learning the Siyat Sharim, because he could have said, now he ends up becoming the Nasi, the head of the academy. He becomes the head of the Jewish people in a sense. And nevertheless, what does he say? He said, best thing is keep quiet. Now, he could have, I grew up among the, I was like, hey, I knew this Rav, and I knew this Rav, and I was, this Guggle, I sat there and I heard a story last night. I didn't hear it, I saw it on YouTube. I came across it. There's this Rav who gives these short stories, who is unbelievably powerful. He's got a great sense of humor. And he was talking about, he came to Rav Kanievsky's home. He had the zechut to be with him one time when he was actually about to eat lunch. And his wife always served him lunch. And he sat down, Rav Kanievsky sitting at the table, and his wife put the food down in front of him. And she said, this is the Bari Preetz, this is the Shahakol, this is the Mizonot. Okay, and he's thinking, it's like, no, that's the fish, and that's the dates, and that's the whatever else, And he's eating, and he finishes some of his food, and the Rabbanit comes over to him and says, would you like any more? He says, yes, I'd like more of the Shahakol. He's like, what in the world? He says, because the Rav Kanievsky, it wasn't chicken, it wasn't dates, it was a bracha. It was just a reason to Hashem gave us to make a bracha, because he looked at it as a bracha only. And I thought that what a great perspective to be at that. I mean, it's Rav Kanievsky's on such a high madrega, but I also understood like what the things here in this world are given to us for. Same thing is true when it comes to our speech. Same thing is true when it comes to what we do with the tools that we're given from Hashem. So first he starts out by saying, indirectly, it almost sounds like it's a haughty thing to say, but he's also trying to teach us something that no matter what station in your life you're in, no matter who you grew up with, that just know your place. You're still, you have to be very careful with your words. But what kind of speech are we talking about? What does it mean? I found best for my body is silence. And why about the body? We'll see that shortly. So I'm going to read to you where I have it, something the Rambam says. Oops. Sideways so I can actually see it. Okay, here, this is from the Rambam. The Rambam divides up speech